Welcome to the Leverage Show. Get more from your business and your life. So if you notice the funky wraps on my arm, I'm actually going through rehab for tennis elbow. So that's one of the joys to getting older. If you happen to be younger than I am, and if you happen to be older, maybe you've already experienced it. I don't even play tennis, but I managed to get tennis elbow, and it's a pain in the neck in terms of being able to do anything. But what are you going to do about it? So I want to share with you today the most important goal to set for your business. And we're talking about something here that is not financial. We're talking about something that has nothing to do with the amount of money that you want your business to make. Now, just to sort of take it from the very top, do you have goals for your business at all? You know, it sounds like a silly question, but a lot of people just get into business. I know I did. And all I thought was, I want to make a bunch of money. I want to, help people solve whatever issue it is that we're solving. And that was really it. And then I sort of set short-term goals or whatever based on what I thought we were going to be doing and what I thought the business was going to stand for. So there's actually a really important value to setting goals. And for me in my personal life, I've gone the whole cycle on this. I've always heard about goal setting, but every time I tried it, I never understood like what I was really supposed to do. Whether I was in a seminar or workshop or I was, listening to a coach or a mentor and they're talking about setting goals, I'm like, well, it needs to be realistic, but a stretch goal. And I have no way to judge that. Like, how do I know whether this goal is too high or too low or easy? It's supposed to be motivating, but not, And so for me, it was a little bit difficult to sort of, I guess you could say goal setting didn't really come natural to me. Although I always strive to achieve things, I never was good at actually setting goals to do it. And, as I've gotten older and as I've, seen a lot and done a lot professionally in business, I realized that it's really important to actually set some goals. And you don't need 2 pages long worth of them, and they don't need to be anything extravagant, but it's important to have it written down. And the reason for that is because it holds you personally accountable to it. It also commits it to your memory. And the most important thing is it avoids creep. One of the real, sort of dangerous phenomenon that you have in life, but particularly in business, is the idea of like calendar creep, where you have an idea in your head, we're going to launch this new product, and so we're just going to put our head down and work on it. Whenever it's done, it's done. And originally you're thinking, okay, we'll get it out by the 1st of October. And then you realize, well, that's not going to work. So then it becomes like the 3rd week of October. And then that's not going to work. So then it ends up sometime in November. And what ends up happening is time just keeps getting pushed out. You feel busy. You feel like you're working hard. So then you sort of tell yourself, well, we couldn't have done it any faster because, look, it took all this time just to do it. I mean, it must have taken that much time. What point would there have been to set a goal? But there's a psychological effect that kicks in. And it basically will absorb all of the time that you've allotted for something. So if you allot 6 months for something that could be done in 2 months, it'll take you 6 months to do it. It's just the way that things naturally work. I don't know why it is. I'm sure you could read up on the psychology of it. But the important point is that you need to have some goals and you need to have some sort of a deadline on them. Now, the important thing about it is having it and is writing it down and committing to it. It's not even that important if you don't actually hit the exact goal, because you're going to be a lot further toward it than you would have been otherwise if you're just sort of floating around. Now, the floating thing is especially common among people if your business is doing well. If you're not really stressed, if, you're sort of in a good groove where you're making money and things are going smoothly, there's much more of a tendency to sort of take your foot off the gas and not really set lofty goals and push toward them. But actually, that's the time you really want to buckle down and make sure that you do that. Because the more that you do that, the more results you're going to get. And you can't predict what's going to happen tomorrow. So the fact of the matter is, you don't know if tomorrow's going to be a better day than today or not. You don't know if there's going to be an economic shift, an industry shift, a regulatory shift, a competitive shift that's going to cause your business to be in a different spot. You don't want to look back and say, I wish we had realized what an opportunity we had and took advantage of it. You want to make sure that you do that. So the long story short with that is make sure that you actually set goals. Okay, regardless of what they are, sit down, spend a half an hour, whatever it is, and crank out a couple of goals that are really important. Now, here's where the nuance comes in terms of the most important goal. Most of the goals that you'll automatically gravitate toward are going to be financial, or they're going to be outward. What sort of effect are you going to have on the world? So they're going to be things about, I want the business to be at this level of sales, this level of profitability. Fine. There's nothing wrong with those goals. It's important to have some measurables and some deliverables in order to be able to do it. The second category is the outward goals. We want to revolutionize the way people shave. We want to, end like dingy looking teeth for every country in the United States, in the world. We want to, end hunger in Africa. Whatever the goal is, your outward effect on the world, okay, that also very valuable, very valid goal, right? Those are the two types that most of the stuff that most people that set goals fall into. But there's a third type of goal that's actually the most important, because what a lot of people don't consider is that you can achieve both of those first two goals and, believe it or not, still be miserable. You can still be miserable, you can still be overworked, you can still be overwhelmed, you can still feel unsuccessful. It sounds totally ridiculous, but it's 100% true. And that's because the third type of goal is an internal goal for you. We don't like to think of ourselves in our business. We don't want to be selfish. We don't want to be that person. We want to grow this business. But you have to take care of yourself, and you have to be able to set goals for yourself. I mean, you're the one who either started or are at least running this business. So sure, you want to accomplish these other great things and make money and do all this other stuff, but at the end of the day, if you have a gigantic business that makes you $1 billion a year, but you have to work 100 hours a week to do it, what you really have is $1 billion job. You don't really have a business because you don't have any ability to step away from it. Part of the benefit, and entrepreneurs get this intuitively when they get started, but somewhere along the line, we forget. We forget that part of the juice, part of what it is that we wanted in the first place is the freedom. So the internal goal for you needs to be, what is your job? What is your role going to look like when you get to where you want to be? What are you going to be doing every day? What is your schedule going to be like? What is your life going to look like? Are you going to be able to come into the office for 2 days or 2 hours a day and then go golfing if that's what you love, or, go out with your husband or wife, maybe take 6 vacations a year, maybe, get involved in some hobbies or charity work that you really want to do. Design your life as one of the goals in addition to your business goals, because you deserve it. If you're building this business, if you're building this enterprise and you're generating wealth in the world, you're creating jobs, or you're making money, or you're improving people's lives through what you're doing, you deserve to get what you want out of it as well. And so you need to set internal goals that are goals for just you. What do you want your job to look like? What do you want your life to look like? This is a big mistake that I made early on. 10 years ago when I was started off in internet marketing, I worked myself to the bone and I became successful financially. But I was working 14, 16 hours a day sometimes when I was doing it, full time. That's after I broke away from my job. And I was constantly stressed because every day when I shut off the lights and went to bed, all I could think about is all the stuff I didn't get done for the day and all the stuff that was hanging over my head for the next day. Now, part of that was my own fault because it was a delegation issue. I needed more help. I had the money at that point. I was making money, but I wasn't very good at hiring help and getting help. And that's a big thing, being able to leverage. But beyond that, I didn't really know what I wanted. I just knew I wanted to build this business. I knew I wanted to work from home so I could, be there for my family and I didn't have to be beholden to somebody else. But I didn't even know what I really wanted myself and what I wanted out of my own life. So, then I started to think about it. And I said, I don't like this. I'm not happy with this. How can I transform where I am now into what I want to be in the future? And that's what I started to think about. I started to think about what would my ideal day look like, my ideal week. Now, you may not be able to do it every day. You might not be able to go into the office only 2 hours a day every day or work only 2 hours a day. But if you can do it once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, it's better than it was before, right? So set the goal for where you want to get to. And even if it's gradual to get there, if you have that image in your mind, you're much more likely to be able to get there. So make sure that you set goals for your business. And it's great to do financial goals, and it's great to do those outward effect-based goals. But make sure that you do internal goals for you as well. So when you reach that mountaintop on everybody else's, viewpoint, you're personally on that mountaintop as well, because you're feeling that level of self-fulfillment from being able to do what you want and design the life that you want. Because that's one of the reasons you got into this in the first place. So make sure that you figure yourself into the equation also. Now remember, like, share, and leave a comment. Also subscribe. And if you have questions, post it at leverageshow.com so I can answer them for you on a future episode. And until next time, make it happen.